if I get out of that rhythm, I just start thinking about myself and my own little world and all of the problems that I'm trying to fix that I can't fix. And for a moment in time, like what we were talking about, sanctified time, I get to fix my eyes on Jesus. Welcome to Truth in Tone. I'm Bekah, a writer and communicator.
And I'm Erik, a local pastor and theologian. Together, we've been married and serving in ministry for over 10 years.
And raising 3 kids.
Yeah, pretty crazy, but they're a lot of fun.
On this podcast, we explore honest conversations that embrace the nuance of topics on marriage, ministry, culture, and Christianity. Because in today's world, it matters not just what we say, but how we say it.
Thanks so much for joining us. Let's get started.
All right, Erik, here's a funny question I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
What's something you love that most people can't stand?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay. Driving in the car, silence.
No.
No radio, no podcast, nothing. Just a silent car drive.
Wow. So many people listening right now are like, absolutely not.
Yeah, maybe they're even listening to this podcast in the car.
Yeah.
Just shut the podcast off and give it a try. But yeah, no, honestly, here's why I like it. Because from the chaos that's surrounding everything in our current moment, it's the one time of day that I'm like, oh, I just get silence. Yeah. Nothing. I can just let my brain wander and just drive.
You know, I'm not going to lie. That does... I do that from time to time, not as often as you do, but I will say it is oddly therapeutic.
Yeah. And sometimes even when I get into the office, I don't even turn on the music. I sit at my desk and answer emails silently.
Wow.
Yeah. It's weird, but it's probably because we're in a stage with young kids and screaming a lot. So
totally fair.
I will get any type of silence I can get. But most people really need to have something on in the background. They need to have music. They need to have a show. They need to have this podcast playing, whatever that is.
Yeah.
I just really crave those moments where I'm like, oh, just quiet.
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
What about you?
Okay. So here's something that I think will make a lot of people cringe. Something that I love is small talk. But hear me out. There's a big caveat. I agree when a lot of people are like, I can't stand small talk.
Yeah, because people will like talk about the weather and you're like, okay.
Yeah, like, okay. But what I'm saying is I actually really enjoy engaging in small talk with somebody who I don't really know. But if they can hold a good conversation about something random, I actually think it's a pathway to connection that we oftentimes overlook.
Have you seen that before?
Absolutely.
Like when?
Oh, I think in the church setting, when they're like, oh, okay, you have 3 minutes, say hello to someone next to you. More often than not, people just sit down. They won't even engage with anyone. And I'm the type of person that's like looking to the left and to the right, like, hi, trying to make some sort of connection. Yeah. And when somebody is willing to like laugh about something silly or just tell me what's on their mind and we end up having a good 3-minute conversation, I walk away feeling loved.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Because you're more of an introvert.
Yes.
That's wild.
Yeah, but I love people. So I'm kind of one of those confusing people where I recharge by being alone, but I come alive when I'm around people.
Best of both worlds.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right, so what are we talking about today?
Well, I thought we'd kick this one off talking about why it's still important to go to church.
Oh, yeah.
Or why going to church still matters.
Mm-hmm. Let's
say that. I was digging around on the internet and I found a bit of research that I thought would be interesting for us to talk about. But a Gallup poll on regular church attendance says that approximately 30% of U.S. adults attend religious services regularly, defined as weekly or almost every week. This includes about 21% every week and 9% almost every week.
Wow, that's low.
Yeah. Isn't that wild?
Yes.
Yeah. Pew Research Center on frequency of attendance says this: about 1/3 of U.S. adults say they attend religious services in person at least once a month. And of those, 25% attend at least once a week.
Okay.
When including people who join services online or TV, roughly 40% participate in some form at least monthly. And in terms of occasional attendance, a majority of Americans attend services only a few times a year or less often. I mean, this data actually checks out. Like, we can go into some of our logs with Planning Center and measure how often families come. We have a good crew of people that I know we see every single week that are there, but more often than not, the research is pretty spot on.
Yeah.
We get like families that come at least once a month or every other month or maybe twice a month.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think to me that's a little crazy, because both you and I grew up in homes where attending church weekly was the norm.
Yeah.
And it was weird if we didn't go to church on a Sunday.
Yeah. And I remember my parents, as we all got older and were interested in sports, they even made it kind of like a family rule that, hey, we will not join leagues where there are games on Sundays that would prohibit our family from attending church together.
Yeah, totally. It was kind of the same with us. And I was fortunate that I didn't have too many meets on Sundays for swimming or water polo games elsewhere. But yeah, I just think that's really fascinating that a lot of American families just see church attendance as kind of...
When you're able.
Yeah, when you can.
Yeah.
It's not a priority. And I wanted to take some time for us to kind of sit with that and to think deeply about, okay, why is this happening? And why does going to church still matter?
Yeah.
Because I think it really does. I think it teaches our family something. It teaches us something. And I think it's good for our spiritual lives. So on that, let's dive into a little bit of thinking about what causes people to miss church. Like, we can just start with like kind of the basic stuff.
One of them, I think, would probably be health.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I mean, we're recording this in a season right now where the flu is just rampant. So that's understandable. I mean, you've got a family with multiple kids going to school, picking up whatever's there, bringing it home, sharing with the rest of the family. Everyone's going to take turns getting sick.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it makes things difficult because you can't drop your child off at Sunday service. You can't drop your child off at the Sunday school. And then one adult ends up staying home. Maybe both adults do.
Or even elderly, if you are...
Immunocompromised.
Yeah, immunocompromised. That's a big thing as well.
Yeah.
I think something else would be sports, like what we were just mentioning.
Yeah.
I have noticed just in attending church every week that there's a significant drop-off when fall comes around.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's a huge sports season.
Yeah. Lots of games to go travel to and
Yeah.
things taking place on the weekend.
Yeah. And I think, speaking from personal experience right now, having very little kids, it's incredibly challenging to make it to church on time on a Sunday morning.
Yeah. Yeah. You were just telling me about this the other day. What happens in that? Because for our listeners out there, our routine is that I have to go to the first service. So I usually leave the house, then leave Bekah alone with all the kids, and somehow, by the grace of God, is able to get them to church. But tell me what goes on.
Yeah. Well, what I was kind of sharing with you, it is so strange. And I have heard this from other friends of mine who have really little kids. It's almost like Sunday mornings, something weird happens where your kids, if they're normally well behaved, all of a sudden Sunday morning rolls around and they become unhinged. Or you're like, wait a second, we do this routine like every day of the week, but why does it feel extra challenging? And it's kind of strange. And so it made me even ask the question of like, is there something spiritual going on here? Where it's like, hey, anything that could go wrong tends to go wrong. So then the first thought that often comes to my mind is, it'd be so much easier to just stay home.
Yeah. obviously, because no one's behaving and everyone's going crazy. They're screaming. They're not paying attention.
Yeah, or you're even already running late and you're like, great, I've already missed the first two songs of worship. Or even for nursing moms, a lot of the times you spend the entire church service sitting in the nursing mother's room with your baby.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, why am I here? So, yeah, so I think this is a good conversation to have because it's so much more normal than I think we often give conversational value to.
Exactly. Yeah. And we're trying to get to church and we're trying to time it up with our kids' sleep schedule. And so we kind of are figuring out, do we go to first service? Do we go to second? And then are the kids behaving? Our kids really like church. So it's almost like, well, if you're misbehaving, then they won't go.
Right. And you're like, but I don't want to take away church and use that.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's super messed up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, right now, too, I recognize that we're speaking from a very family-centric lens, but you and I have several friends that are single, and they have shared with us how painful it is to attend church because they are not married and they don't have kids.
Yeah.
And so they're kind of like, I don't have anyone to sit with. Or my friends with young kids, they are always running late. So I'm not like going to save a seat for them and try to find them. And that's got to be challenging too.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up because in our world right now, we're surrounded by kids. But for some of our friends who are single or who are married with no kids, yeah, there's plenty of factors going on there. They might be really tired. It might be a really discouraging week. They don't have anyone to sit with. Why go? I could just stream it online and get the same experience. I could listen to the songs at home. I could sing them. I could listen to the sermon from the comfort of my couch. And then I don't have to do the awkward small talk.
Yes.
Yeah, which you love.
Yes.
So,
I love that. And I mean, maybe that kind of leads us into that question of there are so many excuses and valid reasons also why it's so much easier to not go to church. So let me ask you, why does regularly going to church matter?
I think the deeper question we're asking here is, am I just part of the crowd? Yeah, I think that's the deeper question amongst all the excuses that we have going on here. Like there's always something.
Yeah.
I've got to travel. I've got a work trip. You know, my health is not doing good. I just want to stay away. Like there's like a lot of flu going around. I'll just better if I stay home. The deeper question here is, does it really matter if I'm here? Like think about it today. It's like if I show up at my church and I leave, who's going to notice if I'm not there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really big thing. I mean, I'm on staff at a church right now, so yes, people will notice if I'm not there. And my boss will also be like, why aren't you here right now? But if I'm a congregant and I'm not a part of a community group and I go to church, who's going to notice if I'm not there?
Yeah.
Yeah. If I'm not serving, who's going to notice if I'm not there?
If you're not connected at all.
Who's going to notice? Yeah. So why go? Why not just stream it from my couch? So I think a lot of the times we're asking these questions subconsciously, and we don't even realize that we're asking them. When you and I were at a smaller church in Northern California, we knew when someone wasn't there. It was, I would say probably a church of less than 500 or so, but still, like you knew, like, oh, during this service, like so-and-so's not here, so-and-so's not here. This person's sitting at their usual spot. I was able to kind of tell when it was my turn to preach, I was able to kind of tell, oh yeah, here's the whole layout of the church because everyone kind of sits in the same spot. And yep, that guy's in the back. I look at this person if I want some affirmation because they're always going to nod and smile. All the high school kids sit in the front row. So yeah, it's really interesting. I wonder if we're asking that question.
Well, and it was small enough to where people knew why you weren't at church. So you could even, during that meet and greet time, you could be like, oh, I'm not seeing so-and-so. And it was absolutely common for someone else to say, oh, they're actually traveling in Italy right now.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, oh, how fun.
No
I'll have to
way.
ask them about that when they return.
Yes.
Or, oh, did you know their family's totally sick right now?
Yeah.
So then it would prompt you to want to reach out to them. And that was such a special community.
Yes, yes. I remember on some days that I wasn't there, if I was sick or if we were traveling, people were like, oh, we missed you today, or oh, this was so funny. So yeah, totally cool. And that's the part of church that I think people are craving, where they feel known and they feel seen and they feel like, hey, someone missed me.
Yeah.
If you're part of a big church, I think it is absolutely crucial that you're part of a community group.
Yes, because it's where you feel known.
Exactly. And what I love about our church and other churches that have the same model is that when you're in community, a lot of the times that community group sits together or they go to the same service.
Yeah.
So they can see each other and they're like, oh yeah, what's up? Cool. And they're able to cultivate that Sunday experience together in person.
In a smaller way within still a bigger church setting.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. So they're able to do that. And then if you're at a smaller church, obviously, you know where everyone sits. So
yeah, and we're not here trying to say that a bigger church or a smaller church is better.
Right.
But more so just trying to highlight that the reason why people continue to keep going to a church is because they feel connected.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think, I keep hearing that we're in a loneliness epidemic right now. And that checks out even within the church. And you serve as a community life pastor. And I know some of the stories that you have shared, more often than not, they're centered around people having a really hard time getting connected.
The need for friendship is huge. Mm-hmm. A lot of people come and they are seeking legitimate connection with other people who are in the same stage of life.
Yeah.
And I have to look at it from a perspective where, hey, these people don't have an instant in at church. Like you and I do, because I'm on staff.
Yeah, it's an unfair advantage.
It opens up so many different possibilities. And I know I can hang out with this person. I can hang out with the people on staff. I can get plugged in with this group of people over here. I know when all the events are going on. So it kind of helps. But man, if you're like new to a new city or you're transitioning to a different church and you're trying to get plugged in, it can be really, really hard and scary and intimidating.
Okay, so Eric, I feel like it would be helpful to be able to expand upon, what does the Bible say? Maybe looking at church history, why have Christians been gathering together? And why does it still matter today?
What instantly comes to mind for me is Acts 2:42. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. When I see the word fellowship, we are constantly thinking of the fellowship hall at church where the little snacks are after the service or the coffee, or we think of the Fellowship of the Ring, or we think of the small talk that happens on a Sunday,
time.
fellowship time. Yeah, that's great and all. I love that. But that word we translate as fellowship is actually the Greek word koinonia, and it means participation. It is a mutual sharing, and it's not necessarily the surface level interactions that we have on a Sunday or with each other, but it's really about the sharing we partake in the divine life together. Like, how do we share in that? We are people who are praying for one another. We're living the heavenly life here on earth. This is a deep bond that we have together that we will also share in the next life. So I think that is extremely, extremely valuable for Christians to be gathering and not just like attending church, but how are we participating in life together? And this is what we see in Acts 2:42. They don't have a Sunday service. They don't have greeters at the door. They don't have a church bulletin that is fought over every single week. They don't have church announcements. But what they do have is a community where they're able to gather and share in life with one another.
Yeah, well, and they all had different roles.
Exactly.
And so even just hearing you articulate that, it makes church, the reason why church matters, feel all the more compelling.
Yes.
Because you're not just going to show up and take.
Yeah.
You're instead viewing it as I am called to be here, and the role that I get to hold and serve is meaningful, and I get to engage with other people. Like, I just love hearing that and being reminded of it.
Yes, absolutely. I'm invited to belong with a group of people. And it's not to say that I need to belong before I believe in God. It's more so I am now living out what I believe in community. And this is the place where I'm going to grow. This is the place where God is going to shape me and where I'm invited to become more like him. Yeah. There's a book I really like called Going to Church in the First Century. And it's really, really great because it gets you to think about all of the ways that we do church now these days compared to what it was like when things were first starting. And when you read the book, it's so interesting because you're like, oh, this looks like a small group. And
It does.
Because it is.
Yes.
They just get together, they have a meal at someone's house, and then they read the apostles' teaching, sing a hymn, pray for one another, and then,
They take turns.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, so-and-so shared last week. Okay, now it's your turn to share.
Yeah, totally. Another verse I think of that instantly comes to mind is Hebrews 10:24-25. It says, "Let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near." So I want to circle back. A lot of people think this is a command. We need to do this, or else we're sinning. But in fact, what the author of Hebrews is urging us to do is to see our gathering as a holy and wonderful thing. It's something that encourages us. It spurs us to become more like Jesus. It is one where we're able to actually practice living in holiness with one another. It's how we participate in the divine life. So yeah, I think there is something really, really important for us to be gathering together face to face, not necessarily seeing online as an option. Like, I get it. Like, if you get sick or if you're like, oh, you got to go see what the pastor said this week, it's really good. Then yeah, like, praise God for the fact that we have technology that links us to be able to see what happened in our community that day, and that we can hear the words that were spoken over or if I'm not able to attend Sunday and I go to my community group, I can hear what was spoken on Sunday. So that way I can legitimately participate. Yeah, it's really nice. When I think back to how even the Jewish people were gathering in synagogues, this starts popping up maybe around Second Temple Judaism, right before Jesus comes on the scene. They're gathering in these synagogues. In fact, that's what the Greek word synagogos means, is like to gather. So they're gathering together on the Sabbath day, and they're doing so not because they're trying to be holy and righteous, but because they're sanctifying time. So it's not saying that the actual church building is important. It's not saying that an actual place is important. It's saying that the time we have together is important. Let's gather and sanctify that time together. Let's live in holiness in this moment. Let's remember specifically why we are God's people.
Yeah, and it is a set aside time.
Yes.
Where it's everybody stops the busyness of their lives.
Right.
And we come together to, like in Hebrews, what you just read, stir up one another to love and good works.
Yes.
It's almost like this Christian powwow.
It really is.
It's like a rallying cry where you're like, why do we come together once a week? It's to be reminded of the good news and to go out and live it out.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And it does something to our identities. What I like about Eucharistic communities is just how formative the service is and how we experience it with all of our senses. Like, we are standing up, we are sitting down, we are using our voices, we are looking at the celebrant who is wearing different colors on their vestments. We are also standing up and getting into a line where we will go and taste and eat communion. We are smelling the incense that's in the air. We're hearing the little bells that are chiming during that time. And what I love about this is that we are using all of the senses that God has given us, and we are invited into a different world for like a little bit.
Yeah.
We're stepping into a different threshold. We're removed from the, like you said, the busyness of our everyday lives and how chaotic and frenzied it is. And we're invited to share in something and to be reminded of the reality that we currently live in.
Right.
Yeah. Even if you're a transubstantiationist or a memorialist, which is a fancy way of saying, does the bread and wine actually become the body and blood of Christ? Are they just signposts? These practices form our identity and also our calling.
Can you speak more to that? In what way?
I think it shapes us around Jesus, and I think it reminds us how we are fed in this world.
Okay.
Yeah. So when we take of the sacrament, when we take the body and blood of Christ, when we take that bread and wine, it is something that is shaping our soul. We are reminded that God sustains us. We're reminded of what God is going to do, that he's going to come and fully bring the new heavens and new earth. We're going to live in that moment. It's like a looking forward to the future of when we are gathered together at the marriage supper of the Lamb. Mm-hmm. It reframes that we don't live for ourselves.
Bingo. I think that right there is key.
Yeah, we're not here to build up our bank accounts or to have the biggest house or to go travel the world or to live to fill our own souls and our own lives. It almost reorients us in a way to where we're like, yeah, this is where I am invited to tune my heart to sing God's grace. It's where I'm attuned to the song of God in my life and the song God is currently singing. And I realize that I can participate in that music.
Yeah. It fixes our eyes on the kingdom once again.
Yes.
Which is why it matters to do it regularly. Because I don't know about you, but if I get out of that rhythm, I just start thinking about myself and my own little world and all of the problems that I'm trying to fix that I can't fix. And for a moment in time, like what we were talking about, sanctified time, I get to fix my eyes on Jesus and be reminded, hey, I know it's easy to forget about the kingdom here on earth because of the worries of this life.
Right.
But like tomorrow has enough trouble.
Yeah.
Let's talk about today. Let's be reminded, where is God?
I need that reminder weekly.
Yeah.
And even if it's like we are dragging our kids to get inside church, we have been up for hours upon hours the night before trying to put a screaming baby to bed. We are still making it there.
Yeah.
And we're sitting in service. And even if we're dead tired, even if we don't remember the sermon, even if we can't sing along to the music or just need to sit down, it's a space to be with God, even in our weary days, even in the days where we don't want to be at church or we had a tough week and now I feel like I have to come here, even when I'm lonely. Mm-hmm. It's a space where we are sanctifying that time, setting aside an hour and a half to 2 hours every week to say, here I am, God, I'm here to worship.
You're reminding me of a recent Sunday where I almost threw in the towel and just said, it's not worth it. It's so stressful right now trying to get everybody out the door. And I just kept sensing this little nudge of like, these are the moments where I need to go to church the most. Mm-hmm. And I knew it. And I'm so glad that I went because, to be honest, I didn't get much out of the service because I was in the nursery with our baby more often than not. But driving home that day, our daughter, she was like, Mommy, can I tell you the verse that I learned in church today? And she repeated an entire verse by memory.
Amazing.
And right there in that moment, it was almost this crystal clear recognition of that's why I'm so glad we came. It wasn't about me, but like, look what God did in her life today.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
we could have missed out on that.
Yeah, we really could have. Okay, Bekah, so in light of everything that we have been talking about, why does the church still matter? Why should we go?
I think because it's formative, not just for us, but also in the community sense. I recognize that the experiences that you and I have had of attending church every single week since we were young,
Yeah.
faith has become interwoven within the fabric of our being. Where if we are not able to go for a couple of weeks, I don't feel like myself anymore. I can sense that something is off. And something that I am particularly grateful for is how faith is not individualistic. As much as we think that we can pursue a relationship with Jesus solely on our own, there is a beauty to engaging in church among other believers. And even from a parent perspective right now, seeing other trusted men and women who are speaking into the lives of our kids, who know them by name, who delight in them, who are teaching them about Jesus, our kids are picking up on it in ways that, yeah, mom and dad talk about this. Yeah, we talk about it at home. We pray, blah, blah, blah. There's something that catches their attention more when it's from somebody that they trust outside of the family.
Exactly. Yeah. They're able to pick up on a lot of things, and I feel like they learn a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah, we see them sitting quietly during circle time and we're like, oh, they do listen.
Who taught them this?
That's so funny.
I know. Yeah. I would say it is really, really cool to sit in church service, to see other people worshiping, to hear other people singing, to even that moment when you're sitting in church and the pastor says something and everyone goes, or,
Yeah.
or, wow. That's my favorite. Just some guy next to you go, wow.
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 You're like, oh, that hit for them.
It did. And you're just going like, okay. But all things considered, that's amazing though, because you can see how the Spirit of God is working in the person next to me. It's working in the person who's sitting 5 rows ahead of me. Someone starts crying. They come to the pastor afterwards, confesses sin. You get to see all these different things taking place. It's not just about you. It's about everyone else who's in that room as well.
Yeah.
And when you're sitting there and experiencing these things happening in the service, I think it affects you more than you think it does.
I think so too.
Yeah. We are invited to participate in these things. And then there might be things where we walk away from the service and ask ourselves, well, okay, why didn't that point hit for me? Why did it hit for somebody else? Mm-hmm. Or there could be part of the pastor's message that specifically spoke to you. And you're like, man, that was so impactful. And it's a way different experience if I'm just listening to a podcast, taking out the trash while I'm doing it, but I'm actually choosing to be present in that moment and to hear God's word preached. There's something beautiful that takes place when I'm with other people. I think we learn differently.
Yes. I love what a friend said one time, and she was explaining how by going to church regularly, we learn how to grieve together and how to celebrate together. Mm-hmm. Where when you are side by side, week in and week out, sharing your prayer requests among others, there is a greater celebration that takes place among the entire community when God answers a prayer, because it's not just been your prayer that you've been praying in secret, but you have invited the greater community to pray for you. And then everybody gets to say, praise God, he was faithful. Or in the opposite, when a prayer isn't answered and you're grieving and you're at a loss for God, where are you? You don't have to do that in isolation. You get to have the faith of others surrounding you and saying, I don't know all the answers to this, but I'm going to sit with you in it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's One of my favorite things to process with community group leaders about is they spend actually more time in prayer for one another than they do on like getting through the sermon questions. And I'm like, you know what? I don't care if you get through all the questions. Do some of those things, do what works, but if you can spend time praying with one another and seeing what the Spirit is doing in your life, I think that's such a powerful thing, because there's more often than not someone who's always taking notes and always emailing all the prayer requests out so you can be praying throughout the week. And the exciting thing, they always say when we come back and we say, hey, how did God move this week?
Yeah.
What's going on? And then you're able to like process and talk about it. And when, like you were saying, your prayer isn't answered, you're able to like sit in that disappointment and be like, okay, then what is God doing in my life? Maybe it's, okay, I'm not supposed to get this job, but maybe God is teaching me to be patient, or maybe God is really trying to root something out within me. I think they're beautiful spaces where we're invited to become more like Jesus, and where God is just stripping away that selfish outer layer of us and getting down to our core and saying, I want you. I want the beautiful heart that I've created. I want this creation. I think those are the moments that really matter. And so we shouldn't give up on church because of that, or we should not substitute church for just kind of an online version of it, or I can do it on my own spirituality.
Yeah.
It's something to be lived out with other people. And even if it's like you can't attend a community group right now, or, you know, getting plugged in at your church is really hard at your stage of life. For us with young kids, it's like, man, like my schedule is all over the place. The fact that I am taking the time to sanctify that hour and to set my eyes on the kingdom, even if it's just briefly, even if I don't know the music, it is a place where I am remembering God.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and I think we're not trying to make it sound like this easy task.
No.
It's really challenging, and it may take a long time before you ever find a church where you truly feel like you have even just a handful of people that you're connected to. Mm-hmm. But I think what we're trying to say is there's a reason why churches still exist, and we are invited to do the messy, challenging, hard work of finding what are those pockets of community that I can find, mm-hmm. and to keep at it, even when it's hard, even when it's discouraging, but also to try to be the type of believers that create that space for others that are willing to go first.
Yeah. Even when the people that you envision yourself being around are not your people.
Yeah.
And that can be really difficult. I remember seeing somebody one time at church who started coming to a church I was working at, and they said, you know, we were actually going to a church over in Portland, but when our pastor learned about it, he said, hey, you should go to a church that's nearby your house and that's in your area. So they started coming to a church that was closer to them, and they felt really convicted about it. And they said, yeah, we just want to get involved with a church community that's where we live. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. They don't know anyone. They have to go to a different preaching style, maybe some different worship preferences. And they chose, no, we're going to root ourselves here. And they did the hard work of just sitting and waiting and being patient and trying to find, okay, where are the people that I can get involved with? And so what I loved about this couple as well is they also became the people that were like, we will take the new people. If someone's new to the church, we will welcome them, and we want to be people who are saying, we'll connect you to places. So
yeah,
I think that's pretty amazing.
I also love in that story that it was another pastor from a different church that didn't see it as hoarding, trying to keep like numbers in their church, but to say, you know what? It's been such a blessing to have you a part of our community, but now that you live so far away, I want to give you permission to be able to find a local church community.
Yes.
Like there's so much beauty to all of that, and I guarantee you it wasn't an easy church change, mm-hmm. but I bet you God was really forming something in them during that time.
Yeah. Because it can be really easy to look around and say like, oh yeah, the church that's across town has all the programs. It's got all of these cool groups. It's got a really cool pastor and nice music. But then the churches where I live, it gets you to think about like, well, like, why has God called me to be here? Why has God called me in this particular neighborhood? There can be something beautiful happening down the street and you don't even know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or a small intimate community that might know your name and know that you're there every week and be able to lift you up in prayer. We don't even know these things. And yeah, there's all sorts of problems and issues that come with any type of church, but the courage to be vulnerable in those places. Yeah. That's, I think, what roots us to people and to communities that honor Jesus.
Yeah.
So, again, it can be really, really hard to get connected to church. I know this all the time because we have different people filling out our Connect cards and coming in and trying to see what churches work for them. I guess it's an invitation to understand that it takes a while for relationships to really develop and to find your place within a community. We take that for granted a lot.
Yeah.
And I think as kids growing up in church, we were like, well, yeah, I go here because my parents are here and it's easy to find friends because kids just want to play and that's what we do. But yeah, I think it really takes a while. And my encouragement for anyone who's still thinking about, well, is this church community for me? Is church for me? Does going to church still matter? Is to still say, give it time and don't stop.
So I think in closing out this episode, I always want to be really careful to not come across as saying a whole bunch of shoulds. Like, you should find a church that's within 5 minutes of your house, or you should go even on a really difficult day, or whatever, fill in the blank. Because it is really complex, and I think the invitation here is just enter the conversation with us. Wrestle through it. Ask yourself, if it's been a while since you have gone to church, why did you leave? Why have you not wanted to go back yet? What type of church are you looking for? Like, what type of community are you yearning for?
Yeah.
Those sorts of questions are the things that we don't have to shy away from. We can wrestle through it and be able to bring it to God, bring it to other trusted friends that can help us think through that. And I think the greater question that we've wanted to wrestle through here today is recognizing, like, why does church still matter? And for all of the reasons we've talked about, it does. So now it's really trying to find out, what is my place in all of this?
Yeah. Yeah, hear us out. If you're listening to this right now and feeling the pressure of, oh gosh, well, I should just keep going every week. That's not what we're trying to do. But to really enter into the wrestling and the questioning, how do we navigate this with our life right now? Is this a priority for us? How do we enter into a more faithful, stable relationship with our local church body? I think there's really good things to wrestle through. And we're not here to guilt anyone. We're not here to say like, well, you should be in church every week or else you're not saved. Not saying that at all. Everyone's story is a little bit different, but becoming a certain kind of people together is what matters.
Yeah, and we do that in community with others.
Amen.
Thanks for joining us for today's conversation. The music you're listening to is Friends Don't Lie by the Alphabet Zero. Make sure to subscribe to the show so you don't miss what's ahead.
And if today's conversation encouraged you, we'd be incredibly grateful if you'd leave a review. Until next time, keep walking faithfully.